of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everybody. Nice warm night still. And hope everybody had a great Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. So everybody had a safe holiday. So tonight, our roll call tonight, John Daniel is out of town at work outing, excused, and we have the agenda that's before you. Any additions or deletions at this time? Okay, if not, the agenda is as presented. We're down to public comment. Hey, Bonnie.
Hey, I would like to bring up the same subject I brought up a few days ago and a few months ago. These are pictures of our new driveway that we got out there early on in last fall. This is a picture of something that I was told was filled in. It sure looks like it's filled in with just the pieces that fell out. This is the part that was, when I first brought it up, was cracked off by somehow, and the contractor decided just to cut it straight. Now, as I recall, this happened, they put this driveway in around election time. Now, I'm not sure whether it was the primary or the regular election, but there hasn't been any freezing weather except 1 week around Christmas. They could have put this back straight and made it look wonderful, and they could have fixed this other part, or at least patched it. I was told by someone who you had on the phone that this was filled in. Does that look filled in? It looks filled in with the pieces, but there's nothing to hold them there. They weren't super glued underneath, I'm pretty sure. So if this is a way we're going to accept work done, help us for when they do the house over there or anything else, because we don't have somebody that's double checking to make sure they do it right. You can keep those.
Thank you.
Thank you. There you are.
All right, Richard, get on it.
Yeah, tell me it's all right, like you told me a month ago.
No, actually, if I can, I know this is public comment, but if I can just make a comment. So I did go out when we were on the
Yeah, we were on it.
So I was looking for some discolored thing that you were talking about. It looked like they had filled in. But this has not, I seen this, but we were gonna address it. I don't know, did you see?
Steve was taking care of it.
All right.
Okay.
That's what you
But
told
I
me.
mean, there wasn't what I'm saying, you were talking about a discolored material that looked like somebody filled something in, and I didn't see any of that.
That's what you called it, I just called it.
No, I mean, you were telling me there was something filled and I didn't see it, but I did see the cut on here too. But we'll address it. We'll get on it, thank you.
Is that the way we're gonna do the rest of our business?
No. All right. All right, anybody else? Okay.
Actually, I would like to say
Yeah.
how good the roofs look.
Yes,
Everybody
they
like the
do.
roofs? The roofs on the Ryder and Mueller house, you like them?
Yep.
I'll try to do everything I can do for you guys. All right? Be patient with me.
All right, thanks, Rich.
You're welcome.
Okay, down to the consent agenda, Mr. Winsley.
Okay, we had the minutes of December 13th, 2022, the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. Then we have the disbursements for the month of December of 2022 out of the general fund of $93,337.68. We had a payroll of $64,213.37. Paychecks of $372.35. Sewer fund, $12,482.75. Escrow fund, $46,678.75. And the MEDC fund disbursements of $502,345.76. Then we have invoices for the month of January 2023 out of the general fund of $94,197.56, sewer fund $10,081.48, escrow fund $4,908.50, and lastly, invoices from the MEDC fund for January of $471,466.60. And that's it. Do we have a second on these?
I'll second it.
Okay, got a second. Any other questions on the consent agenda?
Mr. Supervisor, if I
Yes.
may, on the minutes of the last meeting, item 4 refers to a one-year extension of the development agreement for Salem Springs. That should actually be a one-year extension of the PUD ordinance. There has been no development agreement yet.
I'm sorry, where is this at?
Item
Page.
4 of the minutes from December 13th
One-year extension of the development agreement is not it,
is not, it should be one-year extension of the PUD ordinance.
of the PUD ordinance. Thank you.
Okay, so noted. Okay, anything else? Okay, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is passed.
I called him, I told him to come down at the end of the hour.
Okay, moving on down to Mr. Winsley on the Washtenaw County Sheriff's contract.
All right, I move that Salem Township approve the amended service contract with the Washtenaw County Sheriff Department as detailed in the attached agreement. They are adjusting their annual contract as a result of significant cost increases. And you'll see the items listed for each year for the next 4 years. Just so you see it, this past year, we paid about $165,000 per sheriff, and we have 2 sheriffs. So next year, or I should say this year of 2023, it'll go from $165,000 to $170,471 per sheriff.
And it looks like the grants, that includes the
Yes,
grant money that they.
The federal government gives them
Right.
some sort of grant, and it shows on these, which helps discount our rate.
Okay.
Have a second on this agreement?
I'll second.
TJ? Any other questions?
I don't have a question, Mr. Supervisor, but it sure makes you wonder if we should go back to the old constable days.
What do you do on that night?
I was looking at 1 or 2 people out in the audience.
Oh, that would do the job.
One bullet.
We lost the old constable there not too long ago. That had his badge, that was actually, Kent Stanberry,
Oh, yeah.
and he still carried that badge around, so, that was what he was, so. Okay, so we have a second. Any other questions on the contract? All those in favor say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion's passed. All right, moving on down to the new firefighter application candidate. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So, we had an applicant walk in, a township resident walk in and submit an application. He is a member of a large department, metropolitan department. He is the training officer for that. And he wanted to, since he lives in the community, he wanted to share his, I guess, his skill set and his resources. He's fully qualified in Michigan. Holds a number of qualifications beyond the firefighter 1 and 2. Like I said, he's an instructor at the academy, holds his medical license, so it would be virtually fairly easy for him to get into the department. Just kind of has to learn our trucks and stuff, and he also comes recommended by some of the members within our department. And we've met with him. Sounds like a great opportunity for us to fairly easily pick him up, and I'm hoping that the board would approve such.
All right, and so do you know what his schedules are? Is it kind of like they never really know their schedules, but they are here?
They kind of work 4 days,
Right.
2 days off.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly, but that's the beauty of having a full-time firefighter, that they're available kind of 24/7 on certain days, and so
Okay.
I think that'd be a great asset for us.
All right, I like it. So we make a motion to, what's his name here?
Ken Betts.
Ken Betts? To hire, do we need to make a motion for that, Mr. Lindsay?
Does he need, or not need,
So you've been through the,
yeah, like a background check and all that, or do we still need to do all that?
Approving the board approval, I would do the background check and get his physical so that we're standardized the same way we would do any other candidate.
Very good. We'll make that part of the motion then. Yeah. All right, so we have a motion to hire a new firefighter for Salem Township named Ken Betts, pending approval of the background check, physical, and any reference checks that you normally do. Do we have a second?
I'll second
okay, any other questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Chief? Okay, next on the item is the motion to submit the application for the wastewater treatment plant for the USD. I move that Salem Township submit this application to the state of Michigan, Department of Environmental, Great Lakes, and which is EGLE, for the purpose of a wastewater treatment plant in Salem Township, USD area. Can I have a second on this?
I'll second it.
Mr. DeLuca? Okay, any questions on this? Mr. Trent?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Do we have a more up-to-date legal status on
Yes, we do.
Court of Appeals ruling, potential ruling?
We do. Coincidentally, this morning, we were in the Court of Appeals arguing our case against Superior Township. And the judges there, the 3-judge panel, I'm happy to say was very sympathetic to the plight of Salem Township. understood the facts very well. They seemed very well acquainted with the situation. We won't know, of course, until they issue a written opinion, but they were very much in favor of our positions. Judging by their comments and their questions, unfortunately, I don't think that they're going to issue an opinion forcing Superior Township to grant the application, but it appears they're going to issue an order remanding the case back to Judge Conlon in the Washtenaw Circuit Court and directing him to conduct an evidentiary hearing on the issue of whether or not the application should have been granted for the sewer line going through Superior. So they made some very favorable comments, such as with regard to some of the requirements that Superior Township had thrown at us. One of the judges indicated that they thought that was really a stretch, as far as requiring us to show there was a public emergency, requiring us to show that there's no other feasible alternative. So they just seemed very, very sympathetic to Salem Township's plight. And if we had to go back in front of them on a further appeal, assuming things don't go our way back in the Washtenaw Circuit Court, I would hope, it would be nice to get the same panel. There's no guarantee of that, but I would hope another panel would have the same type of attitude as this panel has. It was good to have, the independent judges listening to the case, and we got a good feeling from having these independent judges hear our position. They didn't seem to be buying any of Superior Township's arguments or position.
Who, just out of curiosity, it might have been in attendance from Superior Township other than their legal counsel?
Well, there was their legal counsel, Nancy Dembinski, who was the counsel retained by the insurance company for Superior Township, made the arguments on behalf of Superior. Also attending, but not sitting in the back of the room listening, was Supervisor Schwartz and their township attorney, Fred Lucas. So they obviously heard the arguments, they heard the comments by the judges. So I think they know what's coming down the pike also.
Is their insurance company the same as our insurance company?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
What kind of time frame are we looking at now?
That's a good question, a very good question. Normally it takes within a couple of weeks to sometimes can take 6 months. I did make sure I impressed upon the Court of Appeals that because we have grant money that has to be used in a certain time frame, and the judges actually acknowledged that they were aware of that because we had referenced that in the briefs. They know the construction has to be completed by next year. So they're very aware of that fact, so I expect that in this case they will issue an opinion very quickly, hopefully within 30 days.
Mr. Supervisor, I know we discussed this to some degree at last month's meeting under board discussion. Based on this update from legal counsel, I'm encouraged that the pendulum is swinging in our direction, and even though the developer has a desire for something to be happening in the process, I'm concerned about the implications of a wastewater treatment plant being constructed in our community, and therefore I think we should hold off on making any application to the state. I know there may be some on this dais who feel the opposite, but we can agree to disagree if that's the case. But I think I would be opposed to this motion tonight, and that we ought to be patient and see what transpires in the next 30 to 60 days, and ask the developer to be as patient as well, based on this very positive report tonight.
Okay, any other?
Can I comment on it? Just with regard to the time frame, and obviously this board can do what it wants with regard to the application, but and again, my sense is that the Court of Appeals is not going to say that Superior Township has to grant our application. They're gonna send it back to the Washtenaw Circuit Court. And of course, that's all gonna take time. So I don't expect we will get anywhere in the Washtenaw Circuit Court. That may take another 6 to 9 months.
Can we ask for an expedited hearing?
We will, yeah, we definitely will ask for,
Under circumstances?
if the judge wants it to go to trial, we'll ask for an expedited trial. We'll ask for expedited hearings on the evidentiary matters. We'll do everything we can to get it decided as quickly as possible in the trial court, and if another appeal is necessary, we'll ask for an expedited appeal also.
So I think also that the board needs to understand, no matter what happens, it's not where the township will be forced to put a wastewater treatment plant in, which we do not want a wastewater treatment plant. We won't be forced, even whatever the, the outcome is, if they agree to let the sewer go through Superior, we can do that. But the problem is I'm just saying what we need to consider, that if we cause any kind of delay, that's, I think, our biggest fear would be. And again, we know how things have happened in the past. They're very easily to claim of the township being, delaying their issue, and I just think that we need to be very cautious about that. So I guess in my opinion, it's like, if we do submit the application, and I guess, and this is like, if they approve the permitting, or the permitting can be done, that's when the township can address the issue about, before this is ever started, it has to come back to the board for an approval of accepting or not. I just don't want to put the township at risk, in my opinion, of having them coming back at us.
If I can add, I would agree. I mean, in the past, we've gone through arbitration with Salem Springs where the primary claim was delayed by the township. So we don't want to be faced with that same situation again. And again, it's up to the board. I don't see any reason not to go forward with the application, because even if the application is granted by the state, that doesn't mean that we have to proceed to put in a wastewater treatment plant.
Gary?
Yeah.
Is there any financial obligation that we will have in the applying for this to the state?
No, just any monies that are there, or it's gonna cost to be from the grant money. If there's fees and that stuff, that all's paid through the grant. Any other comments?
I think, I would have to agree that I think that in good practice, that we would apply for this permit. I believe for the USD, it's either what comes first, correct me if I'm wrong, whether it be a wastewater treatment plant or sewer. I think if we hold back on applying for this permit, again, as Ed and Gary had mentioned, I think we'd be delaying the process for either one of the two to happen. Well, it's out of our control right now with the sewer in Superior Township, but this in good practice would be making an attempt for another option if that does fail.
Do we know the time frame for an application, like through Eagle? Is it a 30-day, or is it like a 6-month type of application?
My understanding from talking to Stantec, it's probably closer to the 6-month time period. It's not going to be anything that's going to happen very quickly.
Right, so is there anything that we could put in, I'm just trying to think in the motion, that until we absolutely find out that the answer is no, we can't go through there, that we move forward on it?
I'm not sure I understand. I mean, by submitting the application, you're not committing to install a wastewater treatment plant.
That's what they call provisional.
Right. But I,
Legal
but
provisional.
at the same time, because we have the application, or maybe if we put it in the motion, I just don't want the developer to come back and say, hey, we waited long enough, and we don't have an answer yet from the courts about the sewer, and then they're gonna force us to, you know what I'm saying?
I see your point. So I guess the motion could be conditional upon a final ruling from the court that we cannot run a pipe through Superior Township to Yucca.
I would try to think of wording it right to put that in the motion to protect us, if anybody can sue, but I just,
Yeah. That's a good point. So it would be a motion to approve submitting the application to Eagle, conditional upon Salem Township will not proceed with a wastewater treatment plant unless there's until there's a final ruling from the courts, either the Court of Appeals or the trial court.
Again,
Yeah,
but again, correct me if I'm wrong, you would be almost delaying the process of this treatment plan if this is approved before the answer on sewer going through Superior Township, correct?
well, you know, then you get into, I mean, I just don't wanna see Salem Township with another wastewater treatment plant.
Right,
None of us
none of us do, but
But I
again,
think it would delay,
But
it might delay, but
Yeah.
it's gonna push it down the road too.
well, again, the delay is the word that you don't wanna be using.
Right.
If this comes first, don't quote me, but, I mean, it was back in the 90s when I sat on USD, and I believe it worded, and I don't have it in front of me, and I apologize, but I believe it was whatever comes first available, whether it be a treatment plant or sewer from whatever surrounding municipality. And I could be wrong, but if I recall, I believe that is in USD. So again, to put a motion that if this comes available first, we're not gonna accept it because we're still gonna wait months down the road for that final judgment on Superior Township. I think, in my eyes, the developer would have the upper hand there and say, hey, this is ready and available. You're telling us that we can't go ahead and move forward because you want to still wait and find out from Superior Township or the judgment. It's just my thought. I don't know if I'm making a whole lot of sense,
No,
but
I know what you mean. I agree with your thought, but could we not just have a future motion from the board to move forward if, you know, if it looks like there's a long delay getting an answer and we feel like we're getting compressed? And right now, we're just starting the permit process.
correct.
We've got months before we're being
Right.
pushed into that corner of pick one.
I agree. I
We
agree.
can take another action at that time.
I agree. But again, from my understanding, the motion is to put this off, even if it comes before the judgment on Superior Township, which I find it might put us in jeopardy. Ed, you might have a better look at it than I do, but
No, you're absolutely correct. I think, I mean, it's possible that things could move quickly through the state and the application could be granted in 30 days. I don't see that happening, but it's possible. So 30 days from now, the state grants the application, then we may get some pressure to proceed with a wastewater treatment plant. So we have to carefully word the motion by the board to make sure we take care of that. So that's why I think it should be included in the motion. It's a motion to submit the application to Eagle, conditional upon the understanding that the township will not proceed with a wastewater treatment plant unless and until there's a final ruling by the Michigan courts on the issue of going to, through Superior to Yucca.
And have them sign it. You're good at that. No, I think that'd be great. I think that's what we need to do. have him sign it.
Mr. Supervisor, if I could just pose this question, because in my mind, based on what transpired 20 years ago, when JCI was investigating a membrane system for the USD, that, let's say hypothetically, this permit is applied for in 6 months or so down the road, we get some feedback and it's approved. But based on the letter that Eagle submitted to help our brief, which was not included in the brief, obviously they're in favor of a regional system. And if the standards have changed at all in the last 20 years, that might require a certain type of wastewater treatment plant to be installed that can meet those more stringent requirements, whatever they may be today. And then at that point, we would need to go through a design phase. We won't be ready to construct anything at that point. It could take a whole year for Stantec,
Just the engineering part.
just the engineering part of it. And so, that kind of falls in line with my perspective that, that the court system might be actually more efficient in helping make the determination versus applying for a permit. And I'm not opposed to the philosophy of having a conditional, but I think, me personally, I'm just opposed to the idea of even indicating that we're interested in a wastewater treatment plant, because we don't have those kinds of details to know, and I think the developer wouldn't want to know. We know what it would cost to run a pipe 7 miles down to Ypsilanti. We don't have any idea today what the cost of an appropriate size system to house the USD would be today if it had a wastewater treatment plant. Would it require a membrane system today? 20 years ago, it was gonna cost $20 million back then. The cost might be astronomical today. And I just happened to have a friendly conversation with an engineer because of the hat I wear, who said membrane systems might be enticing from the standpoint of initial construction and cost, because membranes are less expensive to install, but the long-term operational costs are excessive, and that's what communities that have put in membrane systems over the last several years are finding, that the filters only last so long, and the cost of replacing the filters, it gets to be very pricey down the road. So again, that's my point, that's my stake, that's my philosophy on this issue. And again, we can agree to disagree, but I don't think we should be applying for a permit today. I think we ought to be patient for 30 to 60 days and see how the dust settles. We can come back and visit this based on what transpires as far as any updates. That's,
And Mr. Supervisor, can I just
Yeah.
add something additional with regard to the application is that when we have discussed this with Eagle, they made it very clear that they want a regional system. They want us to run a pipe to Yucca for our wastewater treatment, and they do not want to see a wastewater treatment plant in Salem. In our application for the wastewater treatment plant, we've made it clear that Salem does not want to have a wastewater treatment plant if there's other means available to dispose of the wastewater. So there is the possibility, based upon that Eagle could simply deny the application and say, no, you're not going to have a wastewater treatment plant in Salem Township. That is a possibility.
So, the only other, like I say, that I would be concerned about as a board is if, the economy tanks, which we're praying and hoping it doesn't, this is the time that they, if there's, we just know what's happened in the past.
Especially when the economy tanked.
Right. And it doesn't look that good right now. So I would be fearful of maybe denying this tonight my opinion. I think that it, that's just my opinion. I think that we should just protect ourselves, that we're doing everything we can, and not delaying anything.
Can you just summarize what happened 10 years ago when they sued us? Like what was the circumstances on that, if you remember?
In the development agreements for other parcels, they had committed to providing a wastewater treatment plant that would service the entire urban service district. When the economy tanked, they basically made a claim that because of the state of the economy, it was impossible to meet the requirements of the development agreement. The development agreement had an arbitration clause in it, which they invoked arbitration. It went to arbitration. The arbitrators agreed that because of the economy, it was not economically possible for them to install the type of wastewater treatment plant that was required by the development agreement, and would have allowed them to go forward with a smaller wastewater treatment plant, but one that could eventually be expanded for additional service. That really is about as far as it went, other than the arbitrators. The Shellstack made a claim for, I think, $30 million in delay damages ultimately, and $750,000 in attorney's fees. Ultimately, the arbitrators did award them $250,000 in attorney's fees and nothing with regard to the delay damages.
Another key point, Mr. Counselor, based on my recollection of what transpired back at that time as well, was that they were intimating that because we didn't immediately jump on the bandwagon to apply for the Obama grant federal monies, because we didn't have a shovel-ready project, and that was supposed to be one of the criteria. We didn't have a shovel-ready project, and they sued us anyway.
Right.
So, again, that was part of the equation back at that time as well. Because they were suing us before you could even apply for the grant.
Primary claim there was delay. You know, they accused the township of unreasonable delay, and that was the basis of the arbitration.
All right, any other discussion you want to have? So, I don't know if you have it all written down, but as far as putting a clause in there. You still think we should, if we do vote on this, that we do have this clause put in there?
So we had the motion that's written out. Salem Township submit the application to the state of Michigan, Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, Eagle, for the purpose of a wastewater treatment plant in Salem Township's USD area. With the conditional understanding that Salem Township will not proceed until a final ruling from the Circuit Court or the Court of Appeals for the sewer going through Superior Township.
Just, I would change it to conditional upon the understanding.
Conditional upon the understanding.
Or even simplify, just say until a final ruling from the Michigan courts.
Michigan courts. Not spell each one
Correct. I
specifically.
mean, there's remote chances could end up on the Supreme Court, I hope not, but
Yeah.
that way we'll know we've taken care of all the courts if we just say Michigan courts.
From the Michigan courts. Do I need to keep that last phrase with the sewer going through Superior Township? Does that spell it very specific is what that's what we want to see.
Could you read that
Yeah.
last portion?
Conditional upon the understanding that Salem Township will not proceed until a final ruling from the Michigan courts with the sewer going through Superior Township.
On the issue of the sewer running through Superior Township.
With the issue of the sewer going through Superior Township.
And then with regard, there was one other part.
Yeah.
With regard, I think it was after the word proceed, you would need to put in proceed with the construction of a wastewater treatment plant.
Okay. Conditional upon the understanding that Salem Township will not proceed with the construction of a wastewater treatment plant until a final ruling from the Michigan courts with the issue of the sewer going through Superior Township.
On the issue. I'm good with that.
Okay. Okay. I can read it one more
Read it one
time.
more
All
time.
right. I move that Salem Township submit the application to the State of Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, Eagle, for the purpose of the wastewater treatment plant in Salem Township's USD area. Conditional upon the understanding that Salem Township will not proceed with the construction of a wastewater treatment plant until a final ruling from the Michigan courts on the issue of the sewer going through Superior Township.
Works for me.
Are you making that motion?
Reggie
I
seconded,
so
but
you would come up with the following conditions.
yes, do you want to still second that? Okay. So Reggie seconds that. I guess it's, okay.
Okay.
And then
All right.
take a roll call.
Yeah, take a roll call vote.
All right, Daniel is absent. DeLuca,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Reeve,
Yes.
Trent,
No.
Wensley, yes, Whitaker,
Yes. Okay. Okay, next on our list is the bids for remodeling of the Mueller House. Mr. Reeves.
I move that Salem Township approve the bid from R&B Old School Carpentry in the amount of $73,500 for the Mueller project. The bids came in between $73,500 and $81,500, with R&B being the lowest bid. And it includes the removing of old siding, trimmed windows and doors, installing hardy siding, trim, and new doors, including rebuilding of the front porch.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion on this? So far, the roofs look good, and so I think once, if this is approved, once we get the rest of this done, actually the outside of the building will, with the porch and the siding and everything all around it, will be like the outside basically will be done, then just to move into the inside. So I think, Rich, we talked a little bit about the inside, maybe not doing, just more or less cleaning it up. There's peeling of some of the walls, the ceilings, fixing that up. The bathrooms need to be upgraded, and then we're not sure about the kitchen part.
Property room, some countertops.
Right. So, but that's kind of the next step, and then the furnace and air conditioning and stuff like that that needs to be. Right now, I mean, I don't know this, I don't want to go on record saying that it's been, we did get a couple bids back doing everything from one person, and it's really expensive. So we've been kind of just subbing it out on doing little pieces that people are, this is what they do, windows and siding and stuff like that, so.
I think we'd be better off to have certain guys come in,
Right.
Furnace,
Right.
air conditioning, generator,
Right.
just find our own people,
Right.
bring them in.
Any other questions, Mr.?
Has this firm been involved in any of the other repairs on either the Ryder House or the Mueller House?
They did the roofs. And we did have bids on that.
They also did the 2 porches on the Ryder House here too. So. Good work.
Yeah.
Just as a note, the products that were being selected for this are long maintenance
life
items.
lasting.
We're talking products that are gonna last a long time, so this is money
Long
well spent
past
for
us.
future, the properties.
That is correct. That hardy board, if anything, you'd have to paint it 20, 30 years down the road, but it's lifetime stuff.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. Okay, now down to border review.
All right. The first resolution is 2023.01.10.01. This is to allow residents to protest in writing to the Board of Review. In order to ease the burden on taxpayers, the assessor, and the Board of Review, and to ensure that all taxpayers have equal opportunity to be heard by the Board of Review, Salem Township hereby resolves, according to the provision of MCL 211.30 of the General Property Tax Act, that the Board of Review shall receive letters of protest regarding assessments from resident taxpayers from the second Wednesday in March until it adjourns from the public hearings for which it meets to hear such protests. All notices of assessment change and advertisements of Board of Review meetings are to include a statement that the residents may protest by a letter to the Board of Review. Do we have a second on this?
I'll second it.
Okay. We need to take a roll call on that.
Correct.
All right, so Daniel is absent. DeLuca?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Reeve?
Yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Wensley, yes, and Whitaker?
Yes. Okay, and now the border review poverty hardship guidelines.
All right. This is resolution 2023.01.10.02. The Board of Review Poverty Hardship Guidelines. Whereas the adoption of guidelines for poverty exemptions is within the purview of Salem Township Board, and whereas the homestead of persons who, in the judgment of the supervisor and the Board of Review, by reason of poverty or hardship, are unable to contribute to the public charges, is eligible for exemption in whole or in part from taxation under the Public Act 390, 1994. And whereas pursuant to PA 390, 1994, Salem Township, Washtenaw County adopts the following guidelines for the supervisor and the Board of Review to implement. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Review shall follow the above stated policy and federal guidelines in granting or denying an exemption. I have a second for this motion.
Second.
Okay. And we'll take a roll call. Daniel is absent. DeLuca?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Reeve?
Yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Wensley, yes, and Whitaker?
Yes. So I do have to make a comment on the board of review. Mr. Bill Guther is our assessor here at the township and has done a fine job for at least the 10 years I've been here. I don't know if some of you remember, we used to have one lady that, I forget what the name, the outfit was running around town here with, whatever, not that, it was just crazy at the time. And one thing I enjoy, I'm usually here at the board of review when people come in and talk about their taxes. Bill has done a good job of making people understand why their taxes are the way they are. And people leave here, I haven't really had anybody really upset, at least maybe they are, but they just don't come and tell me. But he does a great job talking to our residents, so I appreciate him a lot. Okay, moving down, reports, I believe, right, is next, Mr. Rockwell.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just briefly, we had 54 calls in December. Again, that call line was almost double our call volume. And recap for the calendar year 2022, we had 725 calls, where we typically average around 500 a year. So last year was a lot of calls. And of course, for the month of December, motor vehicle accidents with the weather almost matched our medical calls. So hopefully it's been really nice in January. Let's keep the roll that way. But hopefully we can start getting call volumes down. It's just been, not our department, I've talked to our neighboring departments, and it's not they're also having call volumes up as well. So we're not the only ones getting.
Okay. Any other questions for the chief? Okay. Any other board discussions you would like to talk about? Anybody on your mind? Anything new or old? All right, I guess same old, same old. We are still working on some of the projects on the district of the streetscape and also the drainage issues, so hopefully we'll have something here coming up here in the next month or so. But that's all to report on anything future. All right, down to the last public comment. Yes, Joe.
I don't really have too much to say, but you're concerned about delay. It should be, your concern should be about reasonable delay. As long as you're reasonable, you're reasonable. And the courts can understand this.
Thank you. Jim?
I'm just scared about if we get approved for a trash place to do the wastewater.
Yeah.
Here, that'll put our, like he said, that the board of the judges that he just talked to, they understand our plight, that we need to get this through. But he said, we don't have a plan for wastewater yet. But if that becomes apparent that we have one, that may change the way those guys think. Well, it's not necessarily that you have to have that sewer now. You can go ahead and put a wastewater treatment in. It may change the whole complex the way these guys think. That's what scares me. Now, it's not as dire for us because we have a chance to put a wastewater treatment plant in their minds. And to us, we don't want it.
So, and I know you haven't been to some of the meetings, if I just comment on one. So we did request a letter from the state that approves the permit for wastewater treatment plant. That we couldn't submit it, I don't know, I don't understand the courts, but we tried to submit the letter, but we finally did get a letter from Eagle saying that they do not want this, they would rather us go through Superior to waste. So our option is gonna be, if we can't get through there, then, that's what's gonna be next. But I just feel that the state does not want a wastewater treatment plant, they would rather go this way. So I think with that letter that we have, even though you couldn't submit it, can you submit that letter now?
No.
No?
Well, back in the trial court, we can, yes.
Right.
What happened, we did have an email from Eagle that also indicated they would much prefer a regional system over a wastewater treatment plant. that email was submitted as an exhibit in the trial court and became part of the record in the Court of Appeals. We had asked Eagle to give us a formal letter saying that they really want a regional sewer system here and not wastewater treatment plants. They did finally give us that letter. We had requested it, I don't know, 8 months ago. We finally got it just a couple months ago. But under the court rules, the Court of Appeals will not consider something that wasn't addressed in the trial court unless you file a motion in the Court of Appeals asking them to enlarge the record to include this additional evidence. We filed that motion and the Court of Appeals said, no, we're not going to consider anything. We're only going to look at what was submitted in the trial court. So that's what we were left with. But we did have that email that said very briefly that the state prefers a regional system.
But you will be able to put that in if they decide to go back.
Correct. Once it goes back to the trial court, that will become an additional exhibit as part of the evidentiary hearings in the trial court.
Okay, Bonnie.
Do you have somebody in mind for the planning commission?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have somebody?
Yeah, I've been
in mind
talking
for
to
the
a couple
planning
people.
commission?
Yes.
Thank you. And you never can, you can hear me whisper back here, you couldn't hear me the first time?
Just wanted to make sure I'm hearing you correctly,
Yes, right.
so I don't give you the wrong answer.
Uh-huh. Are you going to be able to appoint them before the next meeting of the planning commission?
No. Okay, anybody else? Thanks for coming out tonight, and we will see you next month. And remember, it's Valentine's Day. Don't,
Yeah,
bring your sweetheart out to the